It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 6, Episode 19. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What's up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, my good man, how are you, sir?
What up, dude? I am doing well. At the time of recording, we just come out of a little snowy weather. But you wouldn't know it where I live because it's all gone. But apparently where you live, you have some.
Oh, yeah. Still have some from the first dropping.
I know.
And then we were hit with this crazy, I don't know, whatever. But, yeah, I'm just hoping it gets it out of its system, and that's it. Again, do not put your faith in a groundhog. I mean, I literally heard the next day people complaining about, oh, yeah, that groundhog seen its shadow and all this kind of stuff. And then another lady goes, how did he see his shadow? It was cloudy that day. I mean, they're literally having a real
an argument.
Angry conversation about a rodent seeing his shadow, not even sure he's aware that there is a shadow, held up in the air with some guy in a top hat that looks like a chidol. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. And they're having
surrounded by lights.
Yeah, these are older people having a conversation about this. Like we've said it in previous podcasts. Do not put your faith in a groundhog and hinge your hopes on stardom with this show. So the two things, right? That's our first two top commandments. And then the rest of it is fun, right? Then we'll talk about Kiss and Christmas and whatever else they want to talk about. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Like, of course you don't do, like, come on, stop it. Stop it.
I was talking to a mutual friend of ours yesterday, as a matter of fact. You know, he lives up your way, and he was talking to me about getting his snowblower out. I'm like, you know, you would think you and Mick live in the mountains. Like, the snow that you got.
I know. Well, you know what? My mother still calls this the sticks. Because when she was a kid, that's all it was woods. I mean, when I moved up here, she goes, oh, you're living in the sticks. I go, Mom, it hasn't been the sticks in like 50 years. You know, it's developed. I go, there's a road straight up here now. You know, it's not horse and buggy. It doesn't take you all day. You know what I mean? I'm really not that far. There's a, shopping mall right there. Come on, man. Now, listen, you go up another 45, 50 minutes. And now you're in Pennsylvania. Now you start getting into the sticks. Some of that hasn't been developed yet. It's like parts of Canada, unexplored. You know what I'm talking about?
It's just so funny. Snow that I had is officially gone, and you guys still have all this snow. And I'm like, you're really not that far from me. Like, within the hour, you guys, neither of you guys are that far.
I know. It's crazy, man. It's just nuts. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, like, people are like, oh, there's nothing here. I'm going, it's still coming. Like, what's going on? Like, when you have mounds on either side of your driveway.
Right, exactly.
And then it's there for like a week.
When he told me he got his snowblower out, I'm like, I didn't even go outside to shovel. Like, my sidewalk is done.
I know. I didn't even expect that much. I figure, they're just talking. They didn't even prep the roads. Sometimes like the night before I go, they must not. And then we're starting to shovel. My wife goes, you think we get the snowblower out? I go, to dig it out now? I go, I still have it in the shed. I go, we might as well just keep pushing this stuff. I mean, it's crazy, man. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
It's so weird.
I think we recorded that night, didn't we? That the snow came down. You're like, yeah, there's no snow here. It's gone. Like, wow.
That was the first storm. Yeah. Or the first little snow we had. Yeah.
So again, people, don't put your hopes in a groundhog. Take it for what it is, and definitely don't hinge your career on this show.
Well, it's crazy. Like, how are you arguing about Puxatawny Phil? Like, that is so dumb. Like, you know what I mean? It's just supposed to be a cool little thing for people, and it's fun, and it's always. I love it. To me, I think it's great. Like, I think it's a cool little thing that we do, but people arguing over it, that's just dumb and silly. But I mean,
because listen, honestly, I think like a certain generation maybe really were holding on to. Hey, think he's going to see a shadow? I remember as a kid, they would talk about it in the days before.
Yeah.
Oh, you think he's going to see a shadow? Think he's going to see? And I kept saying to myself, like, man, like what kind of groundhog has like? I mean, what are they doing with this groundhog all year? Like, is he going to school? Is he reading stuff? Do they have him in tests? Are they getting him working out like Rocky and Drago? And I mean, like, what's going on here? And then I come to find that it's this gigantic resort type of thing, and it's booked up like 10 years in advance. You can't even get close to that town.
Bro, you can't, bro. You cannot even get close.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about it in previous seasons,
yes.
But I'm still amazed. Even during those seasons, I said to my wife, I go, maybe we go check this out. And we're like, okay, and we're looking. It's like, okay, maybe we can stay 5 miles out of town. No, okay, like maybe we can stay 10 miles out of town. No,
might as well just drive from home.
Yeah, I might as well. Like that's how far it got. It's like, well, maybe we'll just drive out that morning and we'll drive back.
I know, man. It's insane, bro. It's insane.
They need to do something like that for music, like get a groundhog or maybe a rooster. Is this album going to be good? Does the rooster see its shadow? Stranger stuff has happened. I don't know.
That's amazing.
It's just crazy, man.
It is crazy, bro. It is super crazy.
Just it's craziness.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down. This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
Hey, listen, something I had been thinking about, I wanted to ask you, and I figured we'd just do it on air. What do you think makes... Now, this isn't the topic of the show, of course, but this is just our intro banter that we now take up most of the show with and have very little topic time. But, hey, listen, it seems to be working. I don't know. Numbers are definitely better this season, which each season they seem to get better and better. So by the time we get to our last season, they'll be great, and we're tired of doing it. So to see how the system just wears us out. Thanks, people. It took us 18 seasons just to get somewhere. Sell some advertising space or whatever.
There you go, yeah.
What do you think makes a great artist?
Oh,
or what do you think makes an artist great? I guess there's two different ways of looking at it. What makes an artist great doesn't necessarily mean that they have the talent that gets everybody on board, but there's something about them. Or what do you think makes a great artist, which could be talent related? Now, this may kind of shoe into our last episode, does talent count? But maybe that's why I've been thinking about it. So what do you think? What do you think?
I mean, I guess for me, I'm taking talent out of it, obviously. I think we even said it in the last episode, talent is anybody that tries, right? I don't come down on people that try. If they're good, they're bad, whatever. At least they're trying. Anyway, I think for me, when you ask me that question, I immediately think of people like Dave Grohl, Taylor Swift, and Metallica. I instantly think of those three, one band, two artists. Now, I'm not the biggest Dave Grohl fan. I'm definitely not a big Taylor Swift fan. For no other reason, I'm just not into that kind of music. Like, obviously, she's super talented. And then Metallica, of course, I love Metallica. I think the thing that really gets me about these one band, two artists is the way they think outside of the box, the way they do things. I think really intrigues me. Dave Grohl is, he's one of those guys that is willing to do, he don't say no to anything, right? Like, he does everything. Taylor Swift, with the way she handles her business, the way she beat the system in terms of losing her original masters and re-recording them. I think we talked about this before in a previous episode. She is such a powerhouse as when she released these newer, her own versions of these songs that were released before, like iHeartRadio went, we're going to play these songs and we're not playing those originals because we don't want that guy to have any money. This guy, I can't remember his name. He paid all that money for those masters, and guess what? There can't be any return because people refuse to play them. That to me is super powerful, man. Like that. I mean, like who does that? I feel like everything she does is super successful. Obviously, she's had the biggest tour of the past year or so, and then like Metallica, same thing. They think outside of the box. They do the coolest things, and I've waved this Metallica flag for such a long time. love them or hate them, you can't deny the things that they do outside of their music. Like, they just do the coolest things. And I just reread Scott Ian's book, and he had said some really cool things about Metallica, kind of like behind the scenes of how they operated, when they were doing that Big Four concert a number of years ago, and it was Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, and Metallica, and what they did behind the scenes to make that happen. And even Scott Ian was like, these guys, everything is down to the number. They know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. And it constantly pays off. And honestly, if you watch any of the past tour of Metallica, the 72 Seasons tour, like, the stuff they do it's just unbelievable to me. Like, just the coolest things. So to me, like, when I think of that question, they're the three people or artists that I think of when I think of that definition, what makes an artist. It's just outside the box. Like, not because they're all talented, because they are all super talented, great songwriters or whatever. It's the things that they do outside of just strictly recording and creating music that really intrigues me to no end. When Taylor Swift was doing the tour this past summer, like, I couldn't stop watching the videos that were online. And again, I'm not a fan, but she just intrigued me by her stage set and how, what she played, like 36 songs or 41 songs. That's outrageous, man. Everything she does is for a reason, right? Like, every costume change, everything has a thing. Like, everything has a message. She's trying to tell you something in whatever she's doing. And that's the kind of stuff that just intrigues me to no end.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. I started thinking of this. Whatever we define as great in the artists that we admire or gravitate towards, do you feel that you have those same qualities as an artist? Because I started to doing some self-reflection as I'm entering into new aspects of my career. As I get older, things are changing. And we talked about this before. If you're out there playing and you're doing touring to some degree, maybe you're not touring like the big guys, but you're doing like chunks of shows and again, nowadays, that's considered touring. If you're out pushing your album or your music and you're playing, and if you're not just playing the same venue, you're out touring in a certain type of defined standard, right?
Yeah.
And it's a young man's game, or it's a young artist's game. But I started thinking, like, okay, well, here and there, and should I do this, should I do that? So do you feel that you exemplify some of those traits in your own career as an artist personally that you feel you see in these other artists that you admire or gravitate towards?
No, I don't. And I'll tell you why. Through my career, I've come up with ideas and things that, we should do this, let's try this, let's try this. They've never really worked out. Even when it comes down to live performances, like, I used to do things that I just don't do anymore. And I decided a long time ago, I said, you know what? I'm just going to stay in my lane. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is my band. This is what we're trying to bring across. And that's it. Just stay in the lane. Let's follow the genre that we're in and, just work hard. Because I have done things, I try to do things out of the box differently, and I've pretty much have not succeeded at most of them. Here and there I will, but for the most part, no, I don't. I try not to think. I try to stay in my lane now as I've gotten older. When I was younger, I took a lot more chances. And when I say a lot more chances, I mean, like I said, maybe things I'll do on stage, or maybe things that, creatively, writing wise, maybe I would do differently. But now I really just stay in my lane. In saying that, getting older, I've also learned not to say no, right? Like the Here and After thing that we did. I was super nervous about it, but once I did it, I'm glad I did it. So I like to do things differently, but I try not to go too far out of my box. If it's someone else's creativity, someone else's ideas, then yeah, I'll go for it. But mine now, I really don't. I just try to keep it to myself and stay in my lane and not try to go outside the box. Because like I said, a couple of things I've tried to do in the past just hasn't really worked out.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Well, do you feel that at times you did exemplify some of them traits, or that you were aware of them earlier on? That maybe you said, maybe that's not my forte, or that's, whatever. Or you and I, we work in band situations, so that means, of course, there are other people to contend with or to, counsel with, include. So sometimes you got to go with what's best for everybody or what everybody decides, as opposed to being just like a single artist.
Yeah.
Now, in a sense, like Dave Grohl, though he has a band, he's pretty much the guy that calls all the shots. But,
Yeah.
So he's like a single artist that just so happens to have a band. And he is involved in a ton of different projects, all the time. Metallica, I don't know how they ran their business early on, but I guess is once you generate a certain amount of success and revenue, whatever you do becomes, it almost makes sense to keep the machine going. And then in terms of Taylor Swift being a solo artist, you don't have anyone else to confer with. So do you feel that you've ever had those certain qualities, for a lack of a better way to go about saying it? Like, or did you just kind of figure, wow, what's the point? Like, did you ever just say, I'm not going to get involved in that?
No, I've definitely never had that attitude of, no, I'm not going to try that. I told myself I would try. If it came up and sounded like a cool idea, I would try it once, right? And just see how it panned out. Sometimes it didn't, and sometimes it did. But I always gave it the shot. I would never not try it. Like, why not? I mean, as long as it doesn't interfere with, I've always been in a band, like you and I, I've never really been a solo artist. So as long as it didn't interfere with the band and what I was doing, because I was just trying to up the band's level or try to make us stand out. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So I've always tried it. I've never just said, no. I've always, if I came up with an idea that I liked, I would try it. And then I would know if it would work. Or, I've always been lucky that any band I've been with, everybody kind of left me do my own thing in terms of like, no one's ever said to me in a band, don't do this. They kind of just let me be the singer, right? Like, they said, unless taking out the music part of it. They always said, you do your thing and we'll go from there. And so I've always tried things, but I've never shied away from not trying things. So I have done them. I just, like I said, now I'm a little more self-aware, I guess, that I'll go, it doesn't sound like a good idea. Or, you know what I mean? I try to put my energies in where it matters the most now.
Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I get that for sure, yeah. I guess that in some cases, when we're comparing ourselves to the top guys, right, top dogs, where we would put energy may not have the same effect as where they would put energy based on the success of their career, right? There's just some things that we're possibly unable to achieve. We could probably try it, but we just don't have the resources and we don't have the numbers that would make such and such. So I understand that. And we talked about that before in other shows, that sometimes we try to emulate what our heroes do, our favorite bands do. I don't think that that's a bad model. Going on by what you're saying, I think we need to be a little bit more selective. Like, what is that band doing that's pushing their career forward or has made them stand out, as opposed to them making a business decision based on the fact that they already have success. Right. And that it's just going to beget, because they want success to get more success, right?
Right.
So we have to determine, as indie in the trench bands, is what we want to achieve achievable just because we're just trying to follow an example of another band? What's the difference between, or understanding the difference between what made them great artists as opposed to what's keeping them successful, what's keeping them making more money? Now, Taylor Swift redid those albums because she lost control of them. So she created all new albums, and I don't know the difference between the two. I don't know how different they sounded. I'm sure there's always differences.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Okay. But are those differences better? Because there's something in those original recordings that propelled her forward. Now she's redoing them, or has redone them. They're doing well, but she has the support of her fans for that. Listen, you and I could do that, and I don't think it would make that much of an impact.
No.
Okay?
No.
Honestly, Kiss, when I think it was for Sonic Boom, there was a second CD of all their old stuff that was redone with the current band. And those songs don't have the same impact, in my opinion, as the original recordings.
Yeah.
Now, they even did that for Double Platinum, that those songs were redone to some degree. There's certain versions that are out there, and I know they start pushing them so that, one, it's a copyright thing. They get more revenue from it. It's a way to get the new members, generating some kind of income for them as well.
Right, right.
But honestly, the original version of Rock and Roll All Night, or the live version of Rock and Roll All Night, is still the one that's being played.
Yeah.
I guess for us, Indie in the Trench bands, we have to look at it in a couple different ways. So what do you think makes a great artist? However you answered that. And then the next question, do you feel that you're emulating some of those traits? Again, you have to answer that question. And then the third question, I think, that would come following the answers to those two questions is, do you think you're great? And is that a pitfall for many of us as artists that we fall into? Yeah, the music's great. What I'm doing is great. And I think this is going to dovetail later in the season here when we reach that episode that we've been sidestepping every week, Big Fish in a Little Pond. There's a lot of bands that think that they're great, and maybe they're not. Or artists that think that they're great. I'm at an age where I'm like, well, maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. Or maybe I didn't really have grasp on certain things that I thought I did. As we get older and the market changes and we see that, if you're out there, you see it. Listen, I'm still playing out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still leaving venues at early in the morning, and it's like crazy, and I'm like, what am I doing sometimes? And I see how the industry has changed. The scene has changed. Like, you're looking at it differently every 10 years because you're in a new bracket. It's like being in a new tax bracket, right?
Yeah.
You're literally in a new music bracket, and it changes the way the audience looks at you, the way the venues look at you, the way the industry looks at you, the way the other bands look at you, even the way you'll start to look at yourself. So you start to kind of reevaluate to find your place in that new view. And this is all I've been, the last couple episodes have helped me go through this process. Listen, we talked about it from the beginning of the season. This was going to be maybe a grittier season. This was like a self-reflection type of season because a lot has changed, and a lot has changed for you and I as artists, and we're still working through them. I'm seeing some upticks from all the work I've been doing to try to kind of make up for things that kind of got a little shaken up, and maybe a little shaken up is pretty good. At first, it doesn't seem so great, but as time goes on. So my question is, do you think you're great?
Ooh.
I hear you.
I don't know, because I've always considered there to be better. I know that there's better vocalists, singers, frontmen, however you want to categorize me. I've always felt that there's always going to be somebody better. Any project I've ever done, I've done my absolute best. And I can only hope that people like what I or we do. And that's just kind of how I've always been. I've always thought it was interesting when a band goes, oh, this album's different from everything because, we just want to write for us. Okay, I understand that. But I've always been 50-50 with that. Yeah, you want to write for you to make yourself happy. Yeah. But it's always really cool when people dig what you're doing. There's been many times where I've been in a rehearsal room and we're jamming out songs and one of us goes, oh yeah, that part's going to be awesome live. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Am I great? I don't know. I mean, I don't think so, but I can say this. I've been doing this for over 30 years. We say it all the time. I'm still writing and creating original music. I'm still playing original music. I haven't gone down the cover band / tribute band road. I'm still creating original lyrics. So to me, I'm doing something right because I haven't done anything different. As hard as it is, as the industry has changed, the venues change, the BS that I've put up with, the member changes, I've always carried the flag of just keep moving forward, doing my own thing, and not really conforming to what a lot of original artists have given up on. Does that make me great? I don't know. Does it make me smart? Probably not. But I don't know. That's such a great question, and that's really the only answer that I could come up with.
I'll tell you what, it makes you a fighter, makes you a soldier and on, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I know, because I'm dealing with the same thing. We literally had a 2-week discussion back and forth about this band sidelining a tribute-type band, just so that we're out there playing more. And our thinking is that we could use it to promote, our original music as well.
That's what Octane used to do.
Because we're finding... One, it's getting harder to play out. We've said this again. There's limited places to play out, and most are opting to have tribute covered acts play.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough when you're competing with a catalog of music that people know already. You just can't, it's like, okay, well, and what do you play? Original music? Oh, okay, all right, well, original metal music? Yeah. Oh, with a throwback sound? Yeah, okay, well, here's some rope, guys. Here's some rope. Here's a rubber hose. I have a garage that the door closes airtight if you need it. So you see where I'm coming from. So, self-reflection, well, I guess you got to take a look at it every so often. But I guess I feel like what I've been doing is it's working, not necessarily 100% of the time, but what does. And I don't feel that I've achieved everything that I set out to achieve. Some things that I achieved that I never expected to achieve or even thought about achieving because I maybe didn't know it existed. I'm still looking at it as like, I can get better. Looking at it with younger eyes, and I'm not saying this is not an easy thing to do, but like I feel inside like I could do that better. I can get better at this. And like we talked about in that last episode, like I know what my strengths are, my weaknesses are, so I try to work towards that. And I've also learned that it's like if it requires someone else or something else, why not? Some of the greatest success stories utilize that tool. Henry Ford didn't build every single car, but he had enough ingenuity to get things moving and then bring in people that could. Yeah. All the greats, you think about it, all the greats. Like whatever great president we've had, they had a cabinet of people that they appointed to do or achieve the things that they may have fallen short at.
Yes.
Right? No football team has ever made it to wherever they needed to with just one player. Now, yes, there's always that outstanding player, but what makes that one player outstanding? It's the team around him that unfortunately sometimes doesn't get all the credit or the accolades. Wars aren't won by one infantry soldier.
Right.
It's an effort.
Right.
So why not? Why not? And maybe that's something that you start developing as you get to be an aging artist. An artist that may be phasing out. But just something to think about. That's all. Self-reflection. That's all. And I think that whether you come up with a solid answer or not, it will change your perspective. And then all of a sudden, you tackle a problem differently. You come at it from a different angle. And if all that is to shake up how you go about doing some stuff, maybe the order you do it in or something you didn't think about, well, then I think that that's a positive. That in itself could make you great.
Yeah. What do you think makes a great artist?
I think it's ingenuity, creativity. I also think it's consistency. There's a lot of artists that have been all over the place, and it's often reflected, like they're very chaotic. And maybe there's no longevity to it. But I think that there's bands that were able to keep, or artists that were able to keep something. They haven't lost what it was that may have drawn people in the first place. There's always a little something.
Can you name somebody like that?
Well, Iron Maiden, for the most part.
Okay.
And people can argue, well, their stuff hasn't been as great as... Well, listen, we can say that about most of the artists that we grew up with, or at least we feel it that way. Those songs defined a time and an era. And that, like we talked about before, most people gravitate towards the music they will listen to the rest of their life by the time they're 20. And you're never going to get those 4 or 5 years back. Sorry.
Right.
Life changes the way we take things in. So most of us, when we're having a hard time, when we need that pick-me-up, we want that inspiration, we go back to the time when
100%.
We were 13 to 20.
100%.
And the music we listen to. I still do it.
I do too.
So
I do too.
That's a hard thing to say, that a modern band or a band that's in modern times, their music isn't as good. Well, I don't know, because we have certain things on the brain. But they seem to be a band that adheres that. There's something that they may have not lost 100%. Again, like I said, just something to think about as you go through your own career and take stock in it. And we've talked about that a lot this season, about taking stock in what it is you've done, where you want to go, so on and so forth. The model has to change for longevity, for being able to do the long haul. That's all.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, good stuff.
Stuff.
I didn't expect it to be that long, but there you have it.
That was good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
That was heavy. That was heavy.
All right, let's get to the topic of the show, and the topic is me, myself, and AI. Me, myself, and AI. AI is all around town these days, seeing the light of day, making waves, shaking hands, kissing babies, kicking the tires, taking it out for a spin. What do you think, buddy? Me, myself, and AI. What is your take on AI?
Well, I am going to actually turn this over to you first. And the reason I'm going to turn it to you first is because you have a hand in art, right? You went to school for it. Like, you're an artist. You are I don't know what your title would be, right? Would it be graphic artist?
Well, technically, I was a fine artist, but
Okay.
But hacker, schlock, crepe hanger, crap slinger, whatever you want to call it, it's probably, garage dweller, whatever. It seems to work.
I want you to break this down for me, okay? What is the difference between AI and, say, a graphic, like what you do for the cosmic view and the cosmic universe? Like, what is the difference?
Like, the difference between a fine artist and a graphic artist was a fine artist did all of the historically traditional forms of art: oil painting, printmaking, wood carving, sculpting, those type of things. The stuff that was centuries and centuries old, that all cultures seem to have some form of. Graphic art became more of a modern term for people that worked in the commercial field. Now, still, originally, back then, everything was still hand done. As time went on, typography and things like that had become computer generated or computer assisted. Computer generated or assisted fonts, the type that you use, has been going on since the industrial age, right? The modern time. Even before that, because they would use printing presses. These guys would, now prior to that, scribes would literally hand write books.
Right.
That's why there was a limited supply of them. Then when the printing press started, so in a sense, that's artificial intelligence. So AI's been around a lot longer than what people have.
Yeah.
Star Wars used practical effects, but then also used CGI, which CGI was just nothing but an early cursor of AI. You're putting in parameters and stuff like that, but it's parameters you're putting in, and then the system creates it. AI, you give them some criteria, and then they create a much larger thing. But again, a lot of that is just pre-programmed stuff. Whether or not the AI is actually learning, that's been in debate. Is the AI, is it becoming self-aware in the fact that it takes this and it starts creating its own stuff? Now, here's the thing. We've been using forms of AI in the music business quite a long time. With the digital addition to production, well, there's some level of AI. Like in mixing, before, when the mix down happened, everything was done manually. Fade outs, fade ins, volume changes, even some EQ altering. You watch some old footage, you have 3 or 4 guys on this massive board, and they're mixing the song down. I remember doing it. We used to have a small reel-to-reel studio that we were hired out to do, and there'd be sometimes 2 or 3 of us on the boards doing these things. We were still doing it. Over time, they became automated. A lot of stuff has become automated. Nowadays, with all the in-the-box recording, well, a lot of that's AI. Think about it.
Yeah.
Like pitch correction, that's AI.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's all a plus because it's more time for creating better music. You don't need the hands. You can do it with one person can do it. And we've talked about that before. It's like the negative side is you don't have as creative engineers now that can do some crazy things with cutting tape and changing EQs and panning and stuff like that, because a lot of that thinking that you had to do has been taken out. You just click a button and, okay, that doesn't sound, let's click another button, see if we can, it's as simple as that. But it has streamlined things, and it's made it more affordable for indie and the trench artists to do some of this stuff on your own. So these programs, they create beats for you. You can create this. So it's AI in a sense. The thing that I think that most people are having the concern with now is, and again, AI has been being used longer than you realize in terms of things being written. Like, so it's taking away from people actually thinking. That's probably the worst thing of it all. Not that books are being written or music's being made. Sure, there is copyright things, and there is some things that could be throwing artists off. Like just a couple weeks back, I came across some AI stuff on YouTube that was supposed to be Judas Priest stuff. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, I knew it was AI, but I was just curious about how much of it sounded. There was some aspects that kind of sounded like it. And then other stuff, because there's albums now coming out that people have generated in the vein of certain bands, certain artists.
Yeah.
Because what they do is they compile all the music that they have, and they extract what they feel the artist would do based on tone, delivery, arrangement, chord choices, all that kind of stuff. And listen, if it's still in the early stages for us user accessible, it's only going to get better. People are going to really, and that's when I guess people are worried about where's the copyright infringement happening.
Right.
How much are you deceiving the public? Well, listen, truth of the matter is we've been deceived for years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all movie magic to some degree, but at least it was coming from the source. The source being the artist and the label working together to release material. Now you may have third, fourth, fifth parties taking advantage of that, and then artists are losing revenue, creativity. Listen, as an artist, and you know this, especially as an indie in the trench artist, even with what Spotify's doing, things are being stolen all the time. Rights are being infringed upon. I think there's plus and minuses. I think it depends on how you look at it, and it really comes down to the integrity of the people that could do it. As an artist, there is some kind of, for me, some kind of interest in, like, hey, if I could understand and had a program where I have a body of work of, several hundred songs, and I put that catalog in there, and I want to see what AI comes up with as new material, that's kind of exciting to me. Would I do something with it? I don't know. I mean, there is the tendency to say, well, what do I got to do? All I got to do is just put in some new music or old music to get new music and change some of the criteria. Right. If I would leave it at that, it's one way. If I used it as a tool to help me write new songs, better songs, it's just another way for me to demo stuff. Like, I kind of like that. So I'm using AI as part of my creative team. Like I said earlier, what makes someone great? Well, knowing your strengths and weaknesses could be a positive there, and then bringing in a team of people. Listen, we've been moving towards artificial intelligence for years. I mean, we did movies on it in the 60s and 70s and 80s that it was going to be the downfall of our world, yet we're still moving towards it. I mean, your phone is AI assisted. You know what I mean? We don't even have to remember phone numbers anymore. I don't know what my wife's cell number is. I don't know what my kid's cell number is. I just got their name in there. I go, blink. Half the time, I don't even know what mine is. People go, what's your number? I go, I got to think about it. And I've had it for 25 years. But I can remember my phone number as a kid because we were forced to.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You asked young people today, what's your social security number? They're like, what?
Yeah.
But you and I, our generation before, we had to. That was our lifeline for certain things.
Yeah.
I think AI as a creative tool is a plus. It's just like anything else. It's how we use it. And, of course, with any new achievement, it's always going to be misused. And it's going to be, a problem. I mean, a lot of people are talking that the AI-assisted writing that's happening online to sell products, to write books, there's articles out there that are AI written. And people are taking credit for it. Well, listen, if you have a site where you're giving people information about something and you own everything within that box and all your content is AI generated, well, to me, that's okay. as long as you're not stealing someone's information and putting someone else's name on it. Or if you're just one person, well, okay, I get it. To some degree, there could be some stealing to it. It's copyright infringement, it's plagiarism, because where is it getting its information? It's an ethical thing, it's a moral thing.
Well, okay, so now let me ask you this. That's on the music level. As a art creator, how do you feel about it? Because this is how I see it, right? Like a lot of AI generated artwork is putting real artists, I don't want to say out of business. It's cutting down on the physical artists that sit at a desk and create what you're trying to come across. Everything, especially with my new band and you know, trying to get the CD ready and you know, the entire album cover was created by the three of us, our ideas, and a outside artist who sat at a desk and created this artwork. You being an artist yourself who sits behind a desk and creates artwork, i.e. the cosmic universe, how do you feel about AI?
Well, here's the thing. Computers killed a lot of those people's careers because desktop publishing, people go, oh, I could do this myself. You know, you get all this clip art and stuff like that. So it's been happening longer than you think. And yes, the AI generated stuff, listen, what it does is just like what digital recording has done, it's opened up the gate, the stadium for non-artists to be artists. For some, it's economical. Some people are happy with it. Again, if it's an assisted tool and you're still then manipulating that from that point, well, okay, to make it specific, sooner or later, there is some repeat. Yeah, it's new, it could be fresh, but then it's not at the same time, which I think then takes away from the artist who's trying to be creative. But then there's that stamp. That's a tough argument. But what it is doing is it is taking away from the artists that still do stuff by hand and opening the doors for non-artists to be artistic, to render something that they need. So again, this has been going on with the invention of the computer. You know, as programs have gotten stronger, more versatile, computers have gotten faster, you know, more powerful. At one point, those artists were called paste-up artists. They're not really there anymore. It's drag and drop now. The paste-up artists became drag and drop artists. You just take this and you drag this. Now listen, you could see the difference between someone who has an artistic eye and someone who doesn't. I mean, you see it in show posters all the time. Like, oh my God, some of these people are just throwing everything in the kitchen sink. You can't read anything. You got to look around. Yes, there is a difference between that. Again, the person probably did it with some program. Was it AI? I don't know. But if you're taking images off the internet and putting them together, well, some of them could be AI. It's how you look at it. Artificial intelligence, we've been using it all the time. Your phone system's artificial intelligence. I mean, look at most of your apps. Using your phone, it hears what you're saying. All of a sudden, it starts popping up ads for things that you were talking about.
Yeah.
5 years ago, that was shocking people. Now it's like, okay, well, the phone's... Everybody knows the phone's listening.
Right.
And they're still talking about whatever they shouldn't be talking about. So, you know, we're all guilty of that. Your cable service or streaming services or whatever, they're AI assisted. Oh, because you watch this, we're giving you all these options to watch because they're putting together this profile based on what you do. And that's AI, right? You know, AI assisted writing. You say, I want to write about how this societal conflict is affecting the economy of both the nation and then the international market. And then all of a sudden, it's writing about this stuff, bringing in statistics from here, from there, because it's already tapped in. It's already tapped in. I originally considered, for our Cosmic comic, I considered doing AI for it. Because it was a fun thing, it was going to be free. I didn't want it to be taxing to the show, to me, to, you know, our budget or whatever, and I considered it. So some of the free online stuff, I attempted to navigate through it and try to figure it out, and some of it wasn't intuitive. And maybe, again, it's just probably my age and, you know, whatever, but I'm like, and I didn't like what it was generating. Like, it just kind of seemed like it doesn't represent really what this goofy spirit that we have.
Right.
Yes, I'm using graphic stuff in terms of I'm using CGI, but I'm manipulating every single panel to the way I want it to be. Like, I'm literally choosing, now I'm going to do that. Am I doing it by hand? I'm doing it by hand, assisted by the computer. I'm not doing it with a pencil and a piece of paper. Because, one, I don't have the resources to go from pencil paper to digital reproduction. Not in the capacity that I want to achieve. Because of time frames. Just like most artists that changed over in the late 90s, I'm using computers now.
Yeah.
But I'm still working things out, doing storyboards, and then I manipulate every single thing that I do to work with what we want to do. Is that AI? Well, I mean, maybe to some point. You draw on a computer tab and you do this whoosh, like with the thing. Well, yeah, you're doing it with your hand, but the computer actually does it. There's an algorithm that does it. You don't like it, you erase it. And it's a lot cleaner. Yeah, I don't have, being left-handed, I smudge everything. It's like, and then you got to get an eraser and clean it, whatever. To me, that's a plus. That maximizes my time, maximizes my effort. As a guy that works engineering and doing producing musically, I think that the assistance that these DAWs give you, and again, there's some kind of AI already in that, I think that's a plus. I think it makes things more economical so that I can get right to what I want to do, the core of it. But when it's creating everything for you where you're not doing anything and then you're releasing it, I don't know about that. It loses some of the human quality. Most recently, and probably more so people can understand it, is like, when the Beatles or Paul McCartney said, we're going to finish a song of the original band of Beatles, and we're going to use AI, and everybody thought that they were going to just be generating John Lennon's voice. And then he had to clarify it, say, no, that's still John's voice. We're just going to use AI to clean up and finish the song that we had originally recorded.
Right.
Well, that may have been a backpedal just to cover himself.
Yeah.
Or it may have been the truth. We don't know either way. I heard the song. I don't even know if it was worth even spending the time and effort. It wasn't. It just didn't seem to have the impact. Something seemed off about it, and the video was even weirder. So
yeah, the video was really weird.
I'm sure that it's gotten high hits. People bought it. It was a success in its own right. I mean, first new Beatles song in 50 years, 55 years. I don't know. I mean, that in itself is a seller. But it didn't have the impact that I thought it would have for me. I was a late Beatles comer, but, I was kind of excited to hear it. But I just didn't feel, even in modern times, as a song that was released, that it had anything except for, oh, wow, look, something new with John Lennon on it. I'm sure, and there's tons of other stuff. But has that opened up the doorway? And then, apparently there's something with Taylor Swift doing rap with explicit lyrics that was put out, and people were having a hard time with that. They couldn't tell the difference. So I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Man, to be completely honest, I don't know that much about it. I know how it works. I don't like the idea of artists like yourself possibly having a hard time getting work, because there are so many out there. I really don't like the fact that it's gotten to the point now where we can put something together that somebody really wasn't even involved in, right? Kind of like what you just said about Paul McCartney and putting together this Beatles song. Like, and I understand where he was coming from. I totally get why he did it. I think it was really special that he did it. I don't know. I didn't connect with it. And I think with computer generated stuff where there's no love in it, I think you're going to lose that connection with people. And, from day one, we've said it. It's about connecting. That was one of the reasons why I wasn't crazy about that Paul McCartney / Beatles song, because I didn't connect with it. Maybe because I already knew what it was and how he put it together. I think it was very sweet that he did it. I'm not saying the song's bad. I just didn't connect with it, as like yourself being a late Beatles fan. So I don't know, man. I've seen some AI artwork come out recently at the time of recording this podcast. A couple metal bands have used it. I'm not crazy about it. You could tell it's AI. But again, that's why I kind of asked the question, because I don't know that much about it. You did put it in a lot of perspective for me, a different way to look at it, instead of just brushing it off going, no, I'm against AI. But you're right. Like, if it helps with making time to being creative, then maybe that's something that we should consider. But of course, people are going to abuse it. And that's the thing that worries me the most, is when it's going to get abused. And that's crappy.
if you go through YouTube, you're seeing a lot of AI-generated music and videos. Like there's a bunch of stuff with Michael Jackson. Again, a lot of it's fan stuff. A lot of it's guys that are just trying to break into the market. Look what I can do.
As long as they tell you, as long as they go,
right, well,
hey,
that's the thing. In time, you're not going to know the difference. And you're going to have a generation, that's what they do. Like you were saying, there's some soul missing. The soul of the artist could be missing. And again, I'm going to go back to say, I am interested in seeing what AI could create for my band. After 13 years of music, I have 11 albums, 25 EPs, and a number of singles. So whether I'm great or not is besides the point.
Right.
I can write music, whether you like it or not, that's besides the point too. But I would love to see for myself what that would generate new music for me. Would it be really, because like I said, I've heard some Judas Priest stuff. I've even heard some Iron Maiden stuff, and you're like, yeah, I don't think Iron Maiden would do that. I don't think Judas Priest would do that. You know, because again, some of the stuff that you're putting in to the parameters is all personal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
So when you're doing it for somebody else, I don't know. You know, but if you're doing it for yourself, okay, don't be surprised that with these avatars that Kiss are using, and even Paul Stanley's recently going on the defensive and saying, listen, they were just the beginning. They're going to get better.
They're going to get better,
you know, that's just backpedaling because of the backlash.
Yeah.
Because they were pretty excited if you watch that behind-the-scenes stuff. But let's not be surprised that, hey, new music may show up. They've always tried to be cutting edge. They have the money to do it, the resources to do it. They're coming in with Industrial Light and Magic. Come on, stop it.
Yeah.
How many people do that? There's movie companies that can't even get a hold of them. Okay? So don't be surprised that new music comes from them. You got anything else you want to add?
No, sir, I do not.
All right, if you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is The Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmic Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmicvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmic Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.